Good afternoon and welcome. Today we have with us an extremely distinguished gathering, and I welcome all of you for the launch of the second edition of the Mooh Rakho campaign, and thanking all of you for taking time off from your busy schedules to join this meeting. We have with us Mr. Sashi Jagdishan, our MD and CEO. He is joined by two senior members of our management team. We also have with us two extremely special guests. We have Dr. Rajeshwar Rao, IAS, Special Secretary, Niti Aayog, and we also have Lieutenant Commander Dr. Rajesh Pant, National Cyber Security Coordinator, National Security Council Secretariat. Dr. Pant is, of course, no stranger to us, having launched the first edition of the Mooh Rakho campaign. Now let me a little more is in order when it comes to introducing our two distinguished guests. Dr. Rao is a development expert. He is an IAS officer of the 1988 batch from Tripura. Apart from that, he was the chief of the National Urban Health Mission. And in 2014-2016, that is when he created the groundwork and for the launch of the PM Jan Arogya Yojana. And as we all know today, health is everything. Dr. Pant, he has a very difficult, but at the same time, probably a very difficult job. But it is very simple in a way to describe his job. An internationally renowned cyber expert, what he does is that he keeps the cyberspace safe for India. The proof of the pudding is, of course, in the eating. In the global cyber security index, India has jumped to the 10th position from the 47th position, and this is as recent as June 2021 under his stewardship. Now I would like to introduce, or I would also like to say a little more about two of our management team members, senior management team members. We have with us Mr. Prashant Mehra, Senior EVP and Head of Retail Credit Strategy and Control, Manish Agarwal, EVP and EVP Credit Intelligence and Control. Now, without much ado, I would hand the floor over to Prashant to take us through the presentation and tell us a little more about the campaign.
Thank you, Ravindran. Good afternoon to the distinguished guests, Dr. Rajeshwar Rao and Lieutenant General Dr. Rajesh Pant. A very good afternoon to you all. Good afternoon to our MD and CEO, sir. Could we have the presentation? I'll just briefly give an update on the secure banking campaign we have, and formally launch and request our guests also to participate in this launch for the fraud awareness week. Next slide. Now, the payment ecosystem in this country is ever evolving and is changed over the last couple of years dramatically. We have new forms of payment, whether it's through QR codes, UPI. In fact, the UPI transactions had crossed about 3.5 billion transactions in a particular month, just a couple of months back. You have payments in the form of wallets, credit cards, debit cards, etc. As our consumers adopt these new methods of payment, and socially the acceptance of these innovative forms is very high. At the same time, as a bank, we are trying to ensure that the social behavior of our consumers and customers on these platforms does not cross certain boundaries, and they are educated and guided well enough to not share their personal private details, etc., the OTP, the PIN, the CVV, all those security related details which pertains to their authentication or validation of that transaction. It's extremely critical that those consumers are made aware of this, and while they accept and embrace these new forms of practices and form factors of payment, they are also guided on the rules and the boundaries within which they have to operate for these form factors. As we all would be aware, the fraudsters typically try and take advantage of these vulnerabilities of the customer, and that's how these cyber crimes and losses occur for various customers of ours. So certain hygiene practices have to be adopted in the cyber world, and that's the endeavor of HDFC Bank's secure banking practices. We carry out this training through all our stakeholders, which includes obviously the various bank employees, our partners, law enforcement agencies, and we try and engage and collaborate with them to make sure that with every training, not only do we educate them, they themselves also become ambassadors to carry out this education for various customers and thereby prevent frauds. Could we move to the next slide? Yeah, we had launched this campaign last year, and as Ravindran had also mentioned, Lieutenant General Dr. Rajesh Pant had participated. Coincidentally, last year was a major health pandemic. It still is there, but we appear to have conquered it, and a lot of progress plus vaccination drive has ensured immunity amongst the larger segment of the society. At the same time, we are trying to now ensure that while we are vaccinated on the health side, even on the financial side, our behavior is such that we are completely immune and protected from these fraudsters. Our specific focus this year is going to be on the youth and masses also. These are important segments, more so because as more and more young demographic population enters into the financial world and the banking world, especially people or children in schools and colleges, I think the financial literacy, the awareness of cybercrime, and the perils of sharing your password and what all damages it can cause is important to be showcased to that new young population, so that they are kind of welcomed into the financial literacy world with complete education of what all can go wrong. So that's our endeavor, and we are going to spearhead it, obviously, 2,000 workshops that we plan over the next 4 months. This will be done through our partners, our bank employees, as well as engagement with enforcement agencies across the country. Next slide, please. Just a brief overview of what all we could manage last year. Last year, we had launched this campaign, and it was very successful. It had won various accolades on secure banking. We had carried out 1,000 plus workshops, and through print and digital as well as social media, we were able to reach estimated about 7.7 crore people and make them aware of safe and secure banking practices. There was a lot of endorsement and encouragement we have got from the police officials across the country, and we plan to build on that and take that forward in the coming year, as well as double the amount of workshops that we intend to carry this year. Some of the campaigns that we run or we plan to run also will be this year in 9 regional languages, and we will make sure that it covers and is published across all leading media, so that the reach is extended far and beyond to each and every individual, irrespective of whether they are customers of the bank or not. I think general awareness is extremely critical. I would also like to highlight, last year, although our campaign is called Mooh Band Rakho, Dr. Rajesh Pantji had indicated that besides sharing our passwords and pins, etc., orally, we must also prevent, people from clicking on unauthorized sites, because many times customers are misled into, clicking on unauthorized sites, and they end up sharing their detail over the internet. So we specifically ran a campaign, on that aspect also to educate our customers. And probably after the presentation, we'll see 2 videos which would cover this part also. Next slide, please. This year, as I mentioned, we will be carrying on with the Mooh Bandh Rakho campaign. And while we are out of the COVID pandemic, more or less, we would endeavor to ensure that the digital practices adopted by all our customers is within the cyber hygiene protocol, and they are not misled into sharing their personal details. With that, I end the presentation, and I would request Ravindran or the team to share the campaign videos for this year.
Shivani, can you please play the both the videos now? The other video also, Shivani.
Mr. Nagmani is double promotion का राज
यही कि किसी को पता ही नहीं है कि मैं बॉस का साला हूँ।
ये अपने सीक्रेट्स किसी को भी बता सकते हैं।
सर, आपका कार्ड अपग्रेड किया जा रहा है, ओटीपी बताइए।
गेट लॉस्ट हो जाएगी।
लेकिन अपने बैंक के डिटेल्स किसी को नहीं बताते। आप भी अपने बैंक डिटेल्स राज की तरह रखिए।
मेरे पास तो एमबीए की डिग्री भी नहीं है।
Thanks for that, Prashant. That was an excellent presentation, and it certainly helped us. You took us through the fact that the scope of this year's campaign has been substantially enhanced. With that, I now request all of you to give a thumbs up and formally launch the second edition of the Mooh Bandh Rakho campaign 2021. Thank you all for that. Now I request our MD and CEO, Mr. Shashi Jagdishan, to say a few words.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to the distinguished guests, Dr. Rao, Rajeshwar Rao, Dr. Pant. Thank you so much for gracing this occasion. I've been having a lot of discussions over the last many months with various banks globally. And one of the most top of the charts in terms of worries that they have, which is giving them sleepless nights, is on the cyber threats. Cyber threats on your ecosystem is one, but the kind of threats that the customers are facing, not just in India, but globally, is where I think most of the heads of financial institutions are having this kind of a problem that we are all encountering. The global financial system is under siege. More and more, we have been adding conveniences into our lives, whether for our banking needs, whether for our day-to-day lives. We see more and more the entire citizens of the country becoming vulnerable to these kind of threats. Ever since I took over, one of the largest proportion of complaints that I get from customers is how they have been duped or defrauded because they have compromised some of the details of their passwords or PINs, or they clicked on wrong websites. I keep having this discussion with my dear friends Prashant and Manish, and I always am pained to say that to hear the investigation report that, sorry, this is something that they have compromised their OTP details or their passwords, and that's the reason why this has happened. This is something that is painful, and that's the reason why I'm so happy that this kind of a campaign, which was embarked last year, is something that we are continuing, and we need to do more. even in my own house, I've seen the need for, I have 3 senior citizens at home. I have to keep drilling. They are, and I'm sure it must be the case even in your own families, that they are the ones who are extremely active on social media, i.e. WhatsApp, or they get a lot of mails and they merely just click on the links. I have to drill it into their heads that don't do these things, because it could lead to situations which is irreversible. So even in my own household, we have a lot of effort to do. I believe that every household, there needs to be one particular person who will be an evangelist and will ensure and take care and spread the message of trying to protect, have a basic hygiene, which is what I think Manish and Prashant made in the presentation, that let's not, the Mooh Rakho is a wonderful tagline, which is what we need to evangelize, and we need to sort of spread this in a manner that is there. I know there are some technical expertise on this call. I have given kind of a blanket approval on whatever that is required to protect our technology systems, our digital platforms. In fact, we're also investing in a wrapper which will ensure that at least in digital or mobile platforms, we can protect people, or the OTPs will not be visible to the fraudsters. These are small ways of doing things, and we are willing to adopt and adapt anything that comes by our way, because as I said, we cannot eliminate this, but we can minimize, and we can make the efforts of the fraudsters much tougher. That's the only way we can do it. But more and more, it's all about self-awareness. It's all about the customers helping themselves. And we need a lot of help even from the government of India. Currently, we're having a fair amount of work and done along with the Ministry of Home Affairs. They've been extremely supportive. We want to sort of expand that, not just the central level, but also at the state levels, in terms of getting the law enforcement agencies, trying to see how we can trace and protect our customers and citizens from this kind of a menace that's happening around the world and globe. So thank you so much, sirs, for gracing this occasion, and thank you very much for the team to taking this initiative of spreading this noble message. And measure the impacts and we see a downward trend of frauds happening to our customers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. That was you definitely took us through the big picture, and you made the extremely relevant point that customers need to help themselves as well. And now, with your permission, I'll request Dr. Rajeshwar Rao to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Ravindran. Good afternoon, friends. Mr. Shashi Jagdishan, CEO and MD, Lieutenant General Dr. Rajesh Pant, senior colleagues from HDFC who are present with me and also online, and other distinguished technical experts and others. I'm extremely happy to be part of this campaign, because Mr. Shashi Jagdishan told that every household should have one evangelist. I think on Saturday, in fact, I accidentally acted like that so that my daughter could save her bank account. If she was about to perhaps deposit some amount as requested by a fraudster in a Ola transaction, then I told that not to deposit that amount, OLX transaction. Then we could have realized that that fellow is a fraudster. And then the HDFC colleagues came in on the next day and mentioned about this campaign. So I immediately agreed, because my concern is that you are all aware, because you are all in the financial sector, you know what is happening. Indian government's highest priority to the entire internet banking financial inclusion, because it resulted into 43 crore Jan Dhan accounts, and perhaps it is a very unique success story in the world where formalization of finance sector happened in a very big way in a very short period of time, that is perhaps 4 to 5 years time. So when it can happen to my daughter who is educated in public schools and best colleges, so I really wonder what is going to happen to these 43 crore Jandan holders, mostly residing in the rural areas, slum areas of urban, without much financial literacy. And particularly when this during last year, 2.98 lakh crores fund have been directly transferred to their bank accounts under DBT under 310 schemes by 54 ministries. And similar actions are being taken by the state governments. So there are 2.5 crore again self-help group members, 5.5 crore EPF. It's a mind-boggling figure. So perhaps the HDFC campaign, and perhaps there should be 1,000 campaigns. I'm very happy that Mr. Ravindran mentioned, Mr. Prashant mentioned that you have planned 2,000 interactions, particularly focusing on youth, universities, colleges, etc. Perhaps I think this is the most important because the students can go home and educate their parents, grandparents, and also their siblings about the menace of the cyber frauds and how vulnerable each and every one of us are here, irrespective of the awareness or irrespective of the exposure. Because in a moment of time, when the person requests you to click or to deposit something, so without understanding also, you must be seeing the newspapers. Several officers also, I think, all already become victims for this whole campaign. So I'm happy and I compliment once again the HDFC, and I'm sure that the customers of HDFC, but with these campaigns, maybe millions of students will have benefit of the awareness, and it has to be reinforced perhaps continuously, consistently, and regularly, so that this will be ingrained in their minds and it will reach the families. So I pledge my support in propagating the message of doing a safe and secure banking, and I'm happy that HDFC Bank as a socially responsible corporate is taking the lead in this endeavor. Ensuring the safety and security of financial information of the general public has always been a cause close to my heart. Unscrupulous elements have always preyed on the vulnerable. I hope these workshops will bridge the gaps in information that give rise to such vulnerabilities and help keep more bank accounts safe. And I also suggest to our colleagues who are spearheading campaign and also Mr. Shashi that this if it is not done, but please do it in the regional languages and also through the All India Radio, because the reach of All India Radio in the rural areas is so large, so huge. It can be part of any of the popular programs, so that the concept of Vedas is called Shruti. If you hear constantly, then perhaps your understanding and your actions by the brain involuntarily will become more and more effective. That is my only suggestion to this campaign. And there is scope for 1,000 players to work on this, because we are now reaching to the crores and crores of people and billions of transactions. I'm sure that this will be extremely useful campaign and extremely helpful to the families who are vulnerable, who can become victims. We can save them from these fraud and other things. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rao, for pledging the support to the campaign as well as for your extremely valuable suggestions. Now I request Lieutenant General Dr. Rajesh Pant to say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone, and my compliments to HDFC Bank in this launch ceremony. My office is looking like a branch of HDFC Bank today. Must compliment the effort that you have put in for this event. And I was also very happy to learn that what we did last year, or what you did last year, eventually became a very successful campaign. Because, we hear a lot of plans every day, but it is very rare that we hear the successful implementation of those plans. So my compliments to Mr. Jagdishan and his entire team. And we also have Mr. Mitra and Tushar Dhar and some of your employees here. Congratulations to everyone. This Fraud Awareness Week is very important from the education and awareness point of view. And at my level, I keep monitoring the status of banks as to how they are placed from the cyber security point of view. And let me share with you that HDFC Bank is one among the best banks which follows the cyber security practices. And I would say that it has a high defense for cyber. You may not have got it the first time, but let me repeat it. High defense for cyber, HDFC.
Oh, it's a very big compliment to the bank.
So, after the pandemic, the cyber crimes have really shot up by 500%. The World Economic Forum has called cybercrime as the biggest man-made threat to economic progress of nations. So this is a very serious business. And it all boils down, as we have been discussing and Prashant has been saying, and Mr. Jagdishan and Dr. Rao, that cyber hygiene is very important. Now, in this particular campaign, you are highlighting on one form of the threat vector, that is the voice-based phishing, which is why, the campaign is called Mooh Rakho. But there are the other two, which are very important, the phishing by email and the smishing by the SMSs, where again, these clickbaiters, and they are getting smarter and smarter. So along with Mooh Rakho, like I said last time, Mutti bhi band rakho, so that you don't click, on those links. Lekin dimag khula rakho. That is very important. So, these cyber criminals are getting smarter and smarter. In fact, the other day we were getting to know of a case where this person went to Google search to find out the helpline number of that particular bank, because he had to, I think he was closing his ATM card. So they said, you go online. And in Google search, the first number that came up was the fraud number. Because how Google search works also, all of you must be aware that the number of hits that you get, he brings it up. And all these fraudsters, they tell their colleagues or they do it themselves that this particular number, keep clicking, and it comes up and it becomes a fraud number, and a lot of people fall for that, prey. And there are many others, KYC, LIC, the people, Dr. Rao was also saying they're targeting pensioners, widowers, and it's really sad when we see these and hear these stories every day. So the banks also have to, I think, make some improvements. Multi-factor authentication is very important. I would also recommend some aspect of using artificial intelligence and behavior analytics just to find out any abnormalities that are taking place in the transaction. And if so, then the customer needs to be rung up and, his verification needs to be done. So finally, for securing the national cyberspace, I have always recommended a whole of nation approach. So what we call as a CBDR, common but differentiated responsibility. So the individual has some responsibility, the enterprises and the banks and the businesses have some responsibility, and the government has some responsibility, and everyone has to do his role. Because the way these cyber attacks take place, one particular individual, let's say of the HDFC Bank, if he is targeted and that malware drops in his computer, internet-facing computer, then the lateral spread takes place, the escalation of privileges takes place till he gets admin rights, and then he can even jump to the core banking system and then create mayhem. And we know what has happened in some of these banks like the City Union Bank, the Cosmos Bank, and the Bangladesh Bank, etc. So with that, in the army we have a quotation: "The more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war." So training and these campaigns that you are doing is very important. And I'm so glad that you have now doubled your target to 2,000 such workshops, etc. I wish the event all success, and thank you very much for being part of this nation building and keeping our national space safe. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your extremely kind words and for that the unique definition of HDFC Bank and your valuable suggestions. I now request Mr. Manish Agarwal to deliver the formal vote of thanks.
So thank you, Ravindranji, and thank you, esteemed guests. With the permission of Dr. Pant and Dr. Rao and our MD, in fact, there have been some last-minute work done by our very enthusiastic marketing team, and they have actually prepared the booklet of an 8-pager, which, in addition to the campaign that we will be doing, we will be circulating through the social media platforms. So, if I may request and take the permission and the concurrence of our esteemed guest to launch that booklet as well before I come on to my vote of thanks. So, sir, do I have a permission to put that booklet as well?
Yes, yes.
Part of our campaign?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
So, sirs, on behalf of HDFC Bank and especially its customers, I extend a really hearty vote of thanks to Dr. Rajeshwar Rao and Dr. Pant, who spared his time from his busiest schedule to grace the occasion. Today, we had an opportunity to hear your thoughts, and this will surely be going to encourage us in our endeavor to spread awareness and fight frauds. Your thoughts have enlightened our minds and has shown us a new path. My gratitude to all the speakers for gracing the occasion and sharing their views today. I would also like to thank our MD, who has actually given us a time in a very, very short notice and always pushes us to go extra mile for the safety of the customers. Not taking too much of a time, last but not the least, I would like to thank our marketing team and the corporate communication team, who have worked relentlessly on this particular topic and the campaign, and they have fully packed next 3 months where we are going to spread this awareness to the next level. I would also like to thank my colleagues, Sitansu and Arun, who are present there, and my team who has worked in a close coordination with Dr. Pant's office, Dr. Rao's office, and helped us to bring them on the board. And we are really feeling a very, very privileged, sirs. Probably the words cannot express the gesture that we have of you being associated with us. So thank you so much once again. I would like to just conclude by saying that awareness is a prevention. And that's the mantra that we are going to take it, and we are going to spread it as much as we can. Thank you so much, sirs.